Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. The Anderson Peters saga has been proving that there are three sides to a story: yours, mine, and the truth. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Tuesday, 16th August 2022. Details when we return.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Welcome back. The crew of the Harbour Master is sharing its side of the story following an incident on Wednesday aboard the vessel in which Grenada's javelin champion Anderson Peters was injured. In a release on Saturday, the captain of the vessel claimed, contrary to reports in the media over the last few days, it was in fact Peters and his friends who attacked the crew members, following which they had no choice but to defend themselves. TV6's Renessa Cutting has more.
There's a saying, there are two sides to every story. While 3 days after members of the Harbour Master crew were captured on video in an altercation with Grenadian javelin champion Anderson Peters, the captain is sharing their side of the story. In a release, Captain Noel Cooper claims crew members were asking Peters and his companions to leave the vessel, as they had to begin preparations for the next cruise, which was scheduled for 8 o'clock. Captain Noel states that the group refused to leave the ship, at which point he approached Peters and once again requested that they leave. According to the captain, Peters cursed at him and insulted him for being Trinidadian. The captain says he asked Peters to leave the vessel a total of 4 times, but each time he allegedly responded with aggression. It was then that the situation quickly escalated. Captain Cooper alleges Peters proceeded to throw water in his face, at which point he says he turned and walked away in order to avoid an altercation. But the captain says one of Peters' associates got physical with his crew manager, following which he says Peters spat at him and began throwing punches at him. He says at that point, the crew had no choice but to defend themselves. Captain Cooper is also denying that Peters was thrown overboard. Rather, he says Peters lost his balance in the scuffle and fell overboard. The captain maintains that the videos circulating on social media show only a small portion of what happened and not the entire incident. Captain Cooper says the events of August 10th have impacted his physical and mental health, and he's calling for the javelin champ to be held accountable for his actions. Meantime, the 6 crew members remain detained in Grenada. Attempts to reach their attorney were unsuccessful. Renessa Cutting, TV6 News.
In the meantime, the latest word from Monday's court hearing is that 2 charges were put to the accused men, causing harm to Kidon Peters and causing grievous harm to Anderson Peters. All the accused men pleaded guilty to both charges except Wiggins. No evidence was offered against Wiggins by the prosecution. Matter was adjourned for Wednesday, 17th August 2022 for sentencing. All convicted men remanded into custody until sentencing. In other news, between Wednesday and Thursday night last week, 3 men were murdered in separate incidents in Trinidad, in Couva, Point Forte and Santa Cruz. More in this short report.
In the latest incident, the nephew of West Indies cricketer Brian Lara was gunned down along Mitchell Street in Santa Cruz, Trinidad. Police said Masha Malara, 33, a fisherman, had just arrived at his home and parked his pickup on the roadway when he was ambushed by 2 men who shot him before escaping in a waiting vehicle. He was declared dead on arrival at the hospital. Police had no motive for the killing up to last night while investigations continue. In South Trinidad, investigators were also still trying to ascertain why Randy Armoso, 38 of Point Fortin, and Clifford Riley, 32, a laborer of Laloon Village, Moruga, were both killed. Police said Amoroso came out of prison a few months ago after serving a term for larceny. Police believe he was beaten to death.
Jamaican recording artist Jack Cure will continue serving his 6-year sentence for attempted manslaughter in the Netherlands, according to a judgment on Thursday last.
The singer appeared in court on Tuesday for a pro forma hearing. He is scheduled to return to court on November 1. According to press officer of the court, Tasha Est, there was another pro forma court date where the judge decided on the continuation of the incarceration. The court has decided to keep Jacure incarcerated. In March 2022, Jacure, 43, whose real name is Sikacha Alcock, was acquitted of an attempted murder charge but convicted of the lesser offense of attempted manslaughter on March 22 in relation to the stabbing of a promoter over unpaid money in October 2021. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison in the Netherlands. There is still no hearing date scheduled for a new trial, so Jacure could find himself with a longer prison sentence if prosecutors have their way. According to Dutch law, in a pro forma hearing, while an inmate is awaiting a court date for the actual trial, a judge has to decide about the incarceration, whether to keep a suspect incarcerated or not, every 90 days. These are the pro forma hearings. Kerr was also convicted of rape and illegal possession of a firearm in April 1999 and served 8 of a 15-year sentence in prison. He was released in July 2007.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Several houses were firebombed early on Sunday morning in central Kingston. It's understood that while residents were trying to save their belongings, gunmen opened fire to prevent them from doing so. TVJ's Codian Barrett reports.
Horror for residents of Smith Lane and James Street in central Kingston. They were awakened by screams of fire around 5 Monday morning.
Yeah, the lady next door calling out for Carter burn. And when I get up, I smell it and I wake up my daughter and my grandson and say, fire. And when I open the door and come out, I say, up at the top in flames. And then she run out and say, bad word, a fire this.
6 houses were destroyed and 4 others damaged.
There are about 30 people, it looks like, who are homeless right now. Could be more. And of the 30, there are about 8 or so who are elderly. There are about 12 or so who are children ranging from, 18 months to about 16. And preparing for back to school and just completely traumatized.
Amid the confusion caused by the fires, a barrage of gunshots rang out, forcing residents to take cover.
And the people, them start coming for help way. And then me run out of street, and when me run out of street, me start to hear peer gunshot. And a man alone said to me, say, Mommy, don't go cross. And me lean back on one next door wall and say, Lord, help me, Lord, help me. Dead now. Same time, me say, where the fireman, where the police, and no police, no fireman, till about quarter to 5.
Things upon everyone one next door, and I don't have to go. So I just go in the bathroom and lock the door. And lock the door. And I go till I go on. And I couldn't come out.
The PMP caretaker for Central Kingston, Imani Duncan Price, says residents are fearful it will happen again.
Because they've been told that it's not over. This is following on last week, Tuesday, where there was a complete gunfire from between Wildman Street and Smith Lane last week, Tuesday. The police were on spot, thank God, so nobody died. But the police were also under fire from the man then.
The affected residents said they lost all their possessions and are in desperate need of assistance.
I'm asking for the mayor of Kingston, who has the resources to call upon the trucks to help to clear the land, because there are young men here who help to rebuild. But we need to clear the land. They will help too. I'm asking for the relief programs to come and help them with mattresses, with food, a little cash today so that people can just have something to eat because their money burned up in their homes. These are hardworking Jamaicans, literally.
Cody Ann Barrett for TVJ News.
A Member of Parliament for the last 15 years, Lisa Hanna, has signalled her intention to resign from representational politics after serving as an elected Member of Parliament. TVJ's Kalisha Williams reports that Ms. Hanna, in a letter to opposition leader and PNP's party leader Mark Golding, indicated that she will not be offering herself as a candidate for the PNP in the next general election.
The statement with the subject Lisa Hanna leaving representational politics sent shockwaves throughout the country Tuesday afternoon. It said Lisa Hanna has signaled her intention to leave representational politics and has advised the opposition leader and president of the People's National Party PNP Mark Golding that she will not be offering herself as candidate for the PNP when the next general election is called. The statement also said that a resignation letter was sent to Mr. Golding. The St. Anne South Eastern Member of Parliament stressed that the early notice of her resignation will give constituency delegates enough time to select a new candidate, which is their constitutional right. She has served as MP since 2007 and retained the seat by a narrow 32 votes in 2020 when the JLP secured a landslide victory in the general election. As for her role as opposition spokesperson on foreign affairs and foreign trade, Ms. Hanna told Mr. Golding that she remains available to serve at his consideration. She also used the opportunity to reflect on her life in politics over the past 15 years. She said, "I have found this experience quite satisfying. It allowed me the privilege to serve as an elected member of parliament, cabinet minister on the national scene, and at the party level as regional chairman and treasurer." In 2020, Ms. Hanna failed in her bid to become president of the People's National Party. Now, her notice of resignation came 24 hours after this video was posted on her social media page. In that video, she expressed gratitude to former Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller, who invited her to join the PNP.
I was reflecting recently on some of the best advice that she gave me, and one of the best pieces of advice she gave me when I was walking to Parliament for the first time was, "Like a girl, don't make them see a ball. Don't give them the credit, don't give them the satisfaction to know that they have unraveled you." Remember that, and I will never forget that.
Kalisha Williams, TVJ News.
Bahamian Prime Minister Philip Davis says his government is looking at value-added tax as a means of bringing relief to the spiraling out-of-control inflation in the Bahamas.
Now, on the sidelines of this morning's school tour, the Prime Minister fielded a series of questions, one of which regarding inflation and what's being done to further cushion the blow. Well, according to the PM, the government's looking at value-added tax as one means of bringing relief.
We're looking at to see what relief from the VAT regime that we could give to retailers that could be passed on to consumers. We only just start talking about that in recent times, only after the onslaught of the inflation started to take bite. There are a lot of matters that impact costs that's out of our control. That which we could control, we are doing something about it. So, for example, we lowered import duties, and Bahamians is already receiving some of the benefit of that. Rupert Roberts himself, in his advertisements, indicated how that has impacted the costs. And so we are continuing to look at initiatives that will bring relief to our people.
Hubbard's Motor Department Mount Gay and Hubbard's Tire Bay, located at the Building Supplies Compound in Grand Anse, are reminding the motoring public that another round for licensing and inspection has begun. Just arrived on new shipments of quality furrowed and torque tires to fit all makes and models of vehicles at competitive pricing. Shop early to avoid the hassle of long lines. WhatsApp them on 473-405-5482. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.